Hi, this is your buddy Bob, another episode of Rock and Roll Travelogue. We continue as we drive over to eastern Tennessee now. We're going to stop in Tupelo, Mississippi. And we're seeking out, as you know, the great pop and rock artists of the 1950s to 1990s. None greater than the guy we see today in Tupelo, because this is where Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was born and grew up. The Elvis Presley Birthplace Museum is at 306 Elvis Presley Boulevard in Tupelo. We took a tour of the museum and the grounds. Here's the admission card. The grounds consist of the home where Elvis was born in 1935, the museum, and the church that the Presleys attended. Now, first, the house. Elvis's father borrowed $180 to buy materials to build the 400-square-foot home. There was no indoor plumbing in the home. Now, 3 years later, sadly, the home was repossessed. His father could not repay the loan. And this is about the time when Dad Vernon spent 8 months in jail on the charge of altering a check. So the family would move around other locations in Tupelo until moving to Memphis in 1949 and settling in the Lauderdale Courts public housing. The church was an Assembly of God church that had been moved to the Birthplace complex, and it allows visitors to view a typical 40s Pentecostal service. This is where Elvis was first exposed to Southern gospel, and we all know that this became a big part of his music later on. He is in the Gospel Music Hall of Fame, by the way. The museum has Presley family artifacts as well as Tupelo artifacts. There's an audio-visual presentation of a young Elvis as well. I remember going into the ticket counter and I saw an old envelope addressed to the Presley family with a zone number on it. And I explained to the young woman at the counter that before zip codes, the identifier was a zone number. For instance, Tupelo 14, Mississippi. Elvis had a song called Return to Sender in 1962, and one of the lyric lines was, "He brought my letter back, return to sender, no such number, no such zone." This in the pre-zip code days. Well, let's look around Tupelo now. Here's the George H. Booth Tupelo Hardware at 114 West Main Street. As the sign says, in 1946, Elvis came to the store with his mother Gladys to buy a bicycle. But a .22 caliber rifle caught his eye instead. His mother was not keen on buying him a gun, so they compromised on a, guess what? Guitar. Amazing, isn't it? The price paid for the guitar was $7.90, or about $137 today. Around this time, Elvis attended Lawn Elementary at 140 Lake Street in the Tupelo area. He was there in the 5th grade. Elvis loved to eat in Tupelo at Johnny's Drive-In at 908 East Main Street. His regular meal was the dough cheeseburger and an RC Cola. That's bread dough with flour in the hamburger to stretch it out a little bit. And I had one for lunch. It was different from any hamburger that I'd had previously. And although I don't usually drink RC Cola, in deference to the moment, I ordered an RC Cola and I had a few sips. Johnny's Drive-In was opened in 1945, and today it's the oldest restaurant in Tupelo. Go there, it's a lot of fun. It is cash only, by the way. Elvis returned to Tupelo in 1956 and 57 to do concerts there, and in 1957, he donated the proceeds to the city to start a park in East Tupelo. The next year of 1958, his beloved mother died. Elvis took leave from his recent induction in the U.S. Army to visit her just before her death. Well, as we get ready to leave Tupelo for Alabama, I'm reminded of Van Morrison's Tupelo honey in the early 1970s. You know, this special honey, Tupelo honey, is only found a little bit east of here near the Georgia-Florida state lines. Let's get back in the car, head over to Prattville, Alabama. It's the Fountain City. This town of 37,000 is in the Montgomery, Alabama metro area. The Wicked Pickett is from here. Wilson Pickett. Now, who can forget In the Midnight Hour? Oh, what a great song. Pickett co-wrote this with Steve Cropper of Stax Records. This was a smash hit, both pop and R&B, in 1965. Oh, and Mustang Sally. Still gets a lot of play today. Ride, Sally, ride, Mustang Sally. Pickett, like the other early African-American rockers, started out singing gospel music in churches, and Wilson Pickett is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Another stop in Alabama, this one in Tuskegee, Alabama. It's the home of the famous Tuskegee Airmen. They were the first African-American military aviators in the U.S. Armed Forces. They were active during World War II in the 1940s. Now, the most famous pop music act from Tuskegee is Lionel Richie and the Commodores. Here's an attempt at preserving the memory of the Commodores at a Commodores Museum at 208 East Martin Luther King Highway in Tuskegee. This was also a rehearsal space and a recording studio for the Commodores. Commodores met in Tuskegee at the Tuskegee Institute, now known as Tuskegee University, and they had the greatest successes in the late 70s into the 1980s. Just to Be Close to You, Easy on a Sunday Morning, and The Funky Brick House, and Three Times a Lady, a beautiful ballad which hit #1 on several different charts. Lionel Richie also co-wrote all three of these hits, and he also wrote the song Lady, recorded by Kenny Rogers, which was a big pop and country hit. In 1981, Lionel Richie wrote the song Endless Love, which he recorded as a duet with Diana Ross. The song was used as the theme for the movie of the same name, and it would be the biggest in the careers of both Diana Ross and Lionel Richie. Now, you may remember, in the movie, 16-year-old Brooke Shields was the female lead in that movie. Well, it's time for me to bounce. Our next episode of Rock and Roll Travelogue takes us to northern Alabama and two famous recording studios there. Until then, this is your buddy Bob saying good heart and stout luck.
You are watching WCTV, Wadsworth Community Television.